Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. In today's video we've got two stories and both of them have updates, so let's get started with the first one. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user ConstantSpace3136. Would I be the a-hole if I told my male 46, kids, male 16 and female 18, their recently deceased mother, female 44, cheated on me? The wound is still a bit fresh. A month ago, my wife of 22 years tragically died in a car crash. Cynthia was one of those drivers that loved to stare into her phone, and unfortunately this bad habit caught up with her in the last week of January. I was pretty devastated when the police showed up at my door and told me she had a fatal accident, and I wanted to honor her somehow. At the time of the accident, I had no idea she was having an affair. In the last 4 or 5 months, I noticed she was pulling away and our intimacy decreased. I thought this was just something that happened to couples after 20 years, so I didn't pay much attention to it. But at least from what she told me, Cynthia started to get into writing. She was constantly on her laptop, typing away at all hours. She told me she was working on a fantasy book, hopefully the first of a series. When I asked more, she said it was about a fantasy world where a super advanced human race appears and interacts with orcs and elves and magic with laser guns and high tech. It sounded very cool, and Cynthia promised as soon as she had a first draft she liked, she would let me read it. I decided to honor her by getting the draft of her book and hiring a writer to clean it up and publish it with a novelty press. I got on her laptop and there was no book, no sign at all. I opened her Chrome thinking she might have written it in Google Drive and saw a bunch of pinned tabs. One was a Facebook Messenger tab with a ton of her messages with a man named John. I have no idea who John is. I have never met him, but they talked about meeting up, exchanging photos and everything. The last message John sent her was 2 days before Cynthia's accident, the two saying they loved each other and him saying he was going on a business trip to Germany. The messages between Cynthia and John show that they have met up at the house more than once, so I have already had the locks changed. I'm not sure if John is back yet, and frankly, I don't care if he is. I was thoroughly devastated. She did have a Google Drive tab, but in her drive wasn't a book about elves versus Vulcans, but a shared document with John. The document was a plan she and John drafted on how to divorce me, turn our kids against me, and take our home and as much money as possible. One thing I had noticed was she has been taking money, a few hundred a month, and putting it in a separate account. I got the bank thing sorted out and the money in the kids' college account. I've also been going to therapy twice a week now. It is hard to be mad at someone dead, especially someone everyone else in your life is grieving and praising as a wonderful wife and mother. I have asked my therapist if I should tell my kids about what Cynthia has done and what she was planning to do. My therapist cautioned me about this. He said that they just lost their mother, and being told this would be condemning her memory. Damnatio memoriae. Maybe now it is not the time, but I think eventually it would be a time for my kids to know. Aw man, OP, this is a very difficult situation to be in. First of all, because of the way that you found out about the affair. You wanted to do something to keep her in memory and you found out of what a gross person she was. I can't begin to imagine how difficult it must be for you with everybody who's grieving her talking about how great of a wife she was. She might have been a great mother, I have no idea about that, but I get the impression that when somebody praises her for being a good wife, you just want to set them straight and tell everybody that she was a cheater. However, there is a higher purpose here, and that is your kids' emotional health. I'm not sure, like your therapist says, if exposing your wife would be the best thing right now. I think you need to apply temperance in this one and just say no for now. And who knows, maybe in the future there is a proper time and an opportunity for you to tell them everything about their mother. Or maybe there isn't. Unfortunately, OP, in this case, I don't think it is about you. This one is about them. In this case, she was a horrible wife, but maybe she was a good mother or even a great one. I don't know that. I don't want to judge you if you would be an a-hole or not because it is a very complicated situation, but I would advise that you use temperance and not do it. And what do you guys think about OP's situation? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. I3XG says, therapists said no, you should follow their advice. When they are older, you can tell them if they need to understand your reaction to her death, but they will probably be upset if you tell them now because it's compounding trauma. You're the adult and their father. You don't get to be petty with your kids against your dead cheating wife. Aloreus Dunnan says, okay, so I have a different take because I sort of fell into this issue myself. 3 years ago, mom died from brain and lung cancer. While cleaning up her tablet, so my dad could use it, as mom had a habit of leaving up 100 tabs in Chrome, I found several searches for how to divorce, divorce lawyers and the like. Mind you, my folks had been married 40 plus years at this point and my mom was almost 80. I know toward the end they had a lot of issues as dad had Alzheimer's. Died to the day mom was buried this January, and her cancer drastically changed her. When I found this, I was heartbroken. I didn't tell anyone and I still haven't. I know you are hurting and you want to punish her, but you can't. Don't punish your kids because she turned out to be a horrible spouse. Instead, take it out on the affair partner. See if you can sue him for ruining your marriage. Some places allow you to sue them, so talk to a lawyer now if you have his information. If you are the main account holder of cell phone, see if you can get texts from the carrier and sue the crap out of John. And Outrageous Wava 422 says, as someone who lost a parent when I was growing up, I could not handle information like that at the time. I know every kid is different, so you know yours the best, but personally, I think it'd be easier to wait until they are independent adults, not just legal adults, because I did not consider myself to be functioning as an adult at 18, and can process everything without it taking a toll on their mental health during a time of grief. Alright, well the community did not judge OP either, but they did advise him to not tell the children. I agree with all of them, and some even set it up pretty clear. Do not take it out on the kids just because you're angry at her. Again, horrible wife doesn't mean horrible mother. Now, unfortunately for us, OP did not reply to any comments or leave us an edit, so we have no additional context. Which means we move on straight to the update to see how this story ends, but before that, if you're enjoying this video so far, please don't forget once again to click that like button, leave me a comment, and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Now, let's continue with the update. Some things have happened since the last time I posted. To answer some questions, I went to the bank, took control of Cynthia's account and transferred the money into a savings account for the kids. Also, my kids already suspected something was going on. Tuesday night, my eldest, Michelle, said she and my son Jason had something to say to me. They sat me down in the living room and Michelle said, "We think mom was cheating on you." They both said they weren't sure, but it was eating them up seeing me in extreme grief the past month, and they thought I should hear what they suspected. They brought up how Cynthia was always away, and when she was at home, she would make strange observations about me. Stuff like, "Isn't it weird your dad's working late this week?" This is one of those seeds Cynthia mentioned in her document that she wanted to plant in the kids. Michelle said her suspicions went high the week before the accident when she got home from school and saw a strange jacket on the coat hook by the front door. It wasn't any jacket Jason or I had, so she was very suspicious about it. I told both my kids that I knew, but I didn't tell them. I found evidence on their mom's computer when I was looking for the book she said she was writing. Michelle wanted to see the evidence, but Jason said he didn't want to think or talk about mom for a while. I shared the information with Michelle after she insisted she already suspected her mom and was ready for it. It feels good to have someone close to me who can talk to me about this beyond my therapist. Now, yesterday afternoon, I was home alone when I heard someone jiggling the back door's knob. I went to the door and saw a man I never saw before trying to use a key on the lock. I told him to step back from the door and he almost jumped. I opened the door a crack and asked him who he was and what he was doing in my backyard. It was John, Cynthia's affair partner. He told me that he worked with my wife and had just returned from a trip and saw Cynthia's death on social media. He and Cynthia were starting a business. Right, with your money, OP, and your kids and everything. They had a business bank account with his investment money in the business, and he was wondering if I could help him get the business funds transferred over. I looked him straight in the eye and said I was at the bank. Cynthia didn't have any extra business account and I had no idea what he was talking about. John also said that he wanted to check my wife's things for any sensitive business documents. I said he was a stranger and wasn't welcome in my home, especially since he tried to enter without permission. John looked defeated but suggested that he would consult with a lawyer about his sensitive business documents and business funds. Holy crap, OP, this mother effer had a key to the back door of your house. It's a good thing you changed the locks. Now, I gotta say, with all of these additional details of him actually not knowing that Cynthia passed away and him talking about business documents and business funds and all that crap, I'm getting the impression that your wife was being worked on by this John, like as in a con, and he was just trying to get her money. That doesn't change the fact that she absolutely sucks. In any case, I think you should now invest with that same money that you took from her account to buy some security cameras or something like that to make sure John doesn't come around again. And also, since your kids already know the truth about their mother, maybe you want to sit down and talk to them about having carte blanche regarding anybody who would give her praise or anything like that, like, oh, she was such a wonderful wife, that you could actually set the record straight. And I ask that to you guys. Now that the cat's out of the bag, and the only reason that OP was shutting up about it was to protect his kids' feelings, and now they know, should he speak up about it or not? Let me know what you think, and OP, here's wishing you and your kids the best in the future. Take care and thank you for sharing. And now, let's move on to the next post that, like I said in the beginning, also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole, and it's by user ThrowArrayChef162. Would I be the a-hole for telling my husband I'm not in love with him anymore after I had brain surgery? Long story short, I was in a car accident. The other driver did a hit and run. Sentencing is taking a lot longer than I expected, but my lawyer says he's probably going to have to do a lot of community service. I ended up needing physical therapy. I had a brain injury, and my neurosurgeon said that I would have some challenges. I am in physical therapy. One of the things they said I would face is differences in mood and behavior. I haven't been moodier. In fact, my friends and family say I'm basically the same as before, but a little slow to get things. But the thing is, I don't love my husband anymore. He feels like a stranger to me. It's not like I'm amnesiac, but I don't feel connected to the memories I have with him. I don't know why I loved him so much. Yes, he's attractive, but he's boring and expects me to worship him. He's also obnoxious and self-obsessed. I feel like I was the one dragging the relationship in the past. I felt like past me was way more in love with him than he was with me. Objectively, I don't know why I should care about him. I don't want to go on dates with him or hang around or to do whatever I used to do with him. I've told him I feel a bit disconnected from my memories and past emotions, but I haven't told him that I don't love him anymore. I've talked about it with a psychiatrist and she said it wasn't uncommon among patients. I told my friend and she insisted I should honestly tell him how I felt. Honestly, I may not like my husband, but I feel like that would be cruel. Would I be the a-hole for telling my husband I don't love him anymore after my traumatic brain injury? Well, OP, I'm not an expert on neuroscience and psychology, so I can't say if you're gonna get this connection to your emotions back or if you're gonna start feeling love for your husband again. However, I do think you need to sit down with your husband and try to talk to him and explain to him what you're feeling. Maybe don't say outright, you know what, I had this brain surgery and I just don't love you anymore, because that could hurt your marriage. Also, you mentioned that you found your husband to be obnoxious, but that could be because he's just in overload of caretaker mode. I mean, his spouse had a car accident and needed brain surgery. That would freak anybody out, so he might be overwhelming you because he's just been scared for you. So as a non-expert on what you're going through, I would say take it easy, one step at a time. Talk to your husband. I'm not saying that you need to live a life of quiet desperation, but just don't jump to getting out of this because you feel no connection. And what do you guys think OP should do? What is your judgment? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Polygon Man says, you should talk to your doctor and psychiatrist about the chance that this changes. Perhaps with this new perspective, you wouldn't want to be with him even if your feelings did change back to how they were. But perhaps you'd want to work things out. If you know it's unlikely this will spontaneously change back, then I think telling him and moving towards divorce is the best decision for sure. And Opie responds, the psychiatrist said that it could come back naturally or it could not. Brain injuries are unpredictable. I've been trying to build intimacy with my husband, but I don't like who he is as a person and I wonder how I fell in love with him. Lengthiness Wonderful says, that's a tough position. I personally would because I've promised to be completely transparent with my husband no matter how much it may hurt, but this may be an unpopular opinion. Before talking to him though, I would confide in a close friend who knows you and your partner well. See if they viewed it similarly or if this is just a perspective change. When you talk to him, I would let him know exactly what you said, how you don't feel connected to your memories with him, and how you feel of the memories looking back at them. His response may help you form new memories of and with him, and it would bring the light to how he viewed those memories. That might help you connect, or it may give you the clarity that this is how it's been. Either way, I think it's best for him to know. And Opie responds, I've told it to a close friend. She was the one that urged me to tell him everything honestly. However, I get the feeling that she doesn't really like my partner, so I might be doing something wrong. Even if I don't love him, I feel bad for hurting his feeling. And Nidopion says, your mistake was coming to Reddit seeking advice. The people of Reddit are unqualified idiots who are not trained to deal with the trauma that you are experiencing. Keep this conversation between yourself and your psychiatrist. Do not make any major life decisions right now as the accident has caused brain damage. Recovery could take years. Don't do something that you might live to regret. Additional information from Opie's comments. When I've spoken to him about how I feel, I've phrased it like, I feel like my memories aren't connected with me. It's like I'm remembering a movie I watched. I desperately want to love him, but if I can't, I know I'll have to let him go. I think he deserves a partner who loves him, and that may not be me. Alright, well, the community gave Opie their perspective, which was mostly on the side if you don't love him anymore, you gotta leave. Which I think could be a rushed decision. I wouldn't align with the community at this one, except for that last commenter who actually called out all of Reddit, but only halfway through. I wouldn't keep this conversation just between the psychiatrist and me. I would also involve my partner, but without making the decisions right now that the rest of the community was telling Opie to make. Anyways, it's time to move on with the update to see how this story ends. I talked with my husband. I didn't want to hurt his feelings and I wanted to fall back in love with him. I sat him down and told him that I felt disconnected from my own emotions and past with him, that my memories with him were like I was reliving a movie and not my own life. He guessed that I wasn't in love with him and he sobbed and begged me not to leave him. It was heartbreaking and I reassured him that I wasn't going anywhere. I wanted to build up my emotions again and reconnect with my memories about him. So we decided I would go back to the doctors to figure out how I could do that, and in the meantime we would go on dates where he was trying to win me over again. Some have asked me what kind of behaviors I didn't like. When I was in the hospital, he would always crawl into bed and cram me into the corner. On our date, he talked through the entire movie and had his flash on when he was taking pictures of me. I didn't ask him to take pictures, he just likes taking ugly pictures of me. He also complains a lot. When we were at the restaurant, he kept complaining to the waiter about the food he ordered. He pokes me a lot, he also whines, and he made me eat dessert even if I didn't want to. And he never stops talking. But I focused on the bigger things. He's very attentive and affectionate towards me. He likes to buy me little gifts that make me try. And he was at my side the entire time, even if he got kicked out by the nurses for annoying them. I know I can rely on him to be there for me, which is the most important thing. At the end of the date, we actually slept together for the first time since my accident, which was less than a year ago, but it had been a couple of months since I was cleared to have sex. We hadn't really been romantic and intimate, so it really felt like I was with an annoying best friend, but I wanted to fall back in love with him. We used to be frequently intimate before my accident. Now, this entire paragraph is very embarrassing to write, so please skip it if you are like me and easily embarrassed by PDAs. He's actually incredible, and I swear I fell back in love with him for a few seconds. I honestly am much more inclined to ignore all of his annoying habits or even find them cute. We slept together in the morning too, and the second day of dating went a lot better. I'm not fully in love with him yet, and I want to rekindle the deeper connection because I know I love him for a lot more, and I do not want my affection for him to rest solely on one thing. I've started a journal of all the things I like and love about him. Hopefully, it will be filled soon. Opie's edit. To answer a few questions I got. Yes, it was a movie theater. The other moviegoers were not happy. This isn't new behavior. He always talked a lot and was in my personal space even before my accident. When I was recovering, the nurses kicked him out for annoying them, but they let him back in after a bit. Well, OP, I'm gonna repeat myself, I think, one step at a time. I can't judge the type of relationship you guys had before. He doesn't sound perfect, but then again, who is? I'm sure that you also have traits that might annoy him or that he doesn't like, but it's not about that. It's about the bigger things like you said. And that applies to everybody. We're all human, so we're deeply flawed. And the fact is that love is looking beyond those flaws to the deeper things and choosing your partner every day in spite of those annoying little traits. So on that note, I'm gonna wish you guys the best in the future. Hopefully you can find that connection and start enjoying the love in your marriage once again. Take care, OP, and thank you for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.